know, when ESPN says up all night, they make it sound so glamorous, but take it from me. Do not stay up all night, because you will find yourself waking up at 1 p.m. feeling terrible in a van down by the river. Today on Coffee Break Tennis, Roger Federer survives another miracle in Melbourne. A Houdini-like escape a second time. If anything, this one was more amazing. We'll talk about that. Plus, our semifinals are almost set. We will talk about Federer Djokovic. We will talk about if he can recover for the match and if Djokovic is looking good enough to guarantee victory. And of course, we will talk about tonight's quarterfinal matches. All that and only that on today's edition of Coffee Break Tennis. You know, it's true. When Tennis Sandgren's demon eyes turn red, he really could, with his record against top players at majors, it's unparalleled. Roger Federer just put a serious dent in it, though, I guess. But Djokovic should be thanking Roger Federer because Tennis Sandgren, I guarantee, probably was pretty scary for Novak Djokovic. So he got him out of the way. Thank you, Roger Federer from Team Djokovic. I want to keep today's show brief. That's why you might notice I don't have any of my typical match notes. No notes, no stories, none of that. But I've had plenty of time to think about it and, sit with my thoughts about everything that has happened. And this could backfire. We could end up going forever if I don't have any goats to kind of keep me on the rails. But I have a few specific things I want to cover today. So let's start with the quarterfinals tonight, since by the time this video's up, by the time I post this video, you'll probably only have an hour or two until Stan Wawrinka and Sasha Zverev take the court. And I said earlier that I thought Sasha Zverev would not have enough left to take out a fresh... I said Wawrinka would not have enough left because of all the injury troubles the last few years, because he hasn't really proven to us that he is back fit enough to play 5-set matches at the majors and keep going all the way to the end. Because of that, I have said Sasha Zverev has a clear path to the final here, also because I think Rafa will find a way to beat Dominic Thiem. I would think it would be 4 or 5 sets, and I would think it would take so much. It would be such a physical, demanding match of Rafa. This is where ATP Cup would have to come into play, of traveling between the multiple cities and all that stuff, and not having as much of a break. I feel like Sasha Zverev, if he can get through Wawrinka, I don't trust Wawrinka to be fit enough to make it all the way if Zverev is playing well. If Zverev comes out and starts playing choky and double faulting, I think Wawrinka comes through. That would be kind of a miracle for Rafa, because we got to be consistent here. If I'm hedging my bet on Roger having a chance, and I'm not going to go ahead and say that Federer is a favorite over Djokovic. Djokovic has proven he is the favorite. But I have said it throughout the tournament, and it's true. The conditions will be their fastest. The humidity will be its lowest. Everything will be exactly what Roger would have asked for in his match with Djokovic. Well, the same is true for Rafa. If he gets to the semifinals, and it's a beat-up Stan Wawrinka who finds a way through a Sasha Zverev who chokes, that won't surprise me at all. Not at all. If that's the case, I really like Rafa to come through to the final, because on Friday, the conditions are going to be even better for Rafa than Thursday will, than the semifinal day for Djokovic and Federer. And let me tell you, a lot of people will probably be saying, oh, the conditions don't matter because it's a night match. And yes, that's true, but sorry, the conditions are going up. We're talking like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit on Friday and like 98 on Thursday. It's going to drop into the 80s at night. So and the humidity is the biggest deal anyways when you're talking about conditions and how fast the ball gets through the court. And so the low humidity of both Thursday and Friday, that is what's going to change it the most of all. So I like Rafa to come through a beat-up Stan Wawrinka. If Sasha Zverev gets through Stan Wawrinka, or let's say Zverev is totally a choke and Wawrinka just crushes him, if one of those two guys comes out of that match feeling very fresh on Friday, I give them a good chance to beat Nadal, because I really think Dominic Thiem will drag Nadal through hell in this match. Real quick on conditions, I'm not going to do a weather report, but I'll just tell you simply, the conditions are going to be very fast for Wawrinka and Sasha Zverev. Sasha Zverev has proven in the past that he likes fast conditions. He had a great win at the World Tour Finals. I like Sasha Zverev here. I think he can do it, and Wawrinka, if he gets really challenged and if he has to have a daunting task of coming back down a set or two, I feel like Sasha Zverev gets through. They'll have great conditions for their match. If Wawrinka is on fire, he'll have great conditions to blow a ton of winners right past Sasha Zverev. So one of them could easily take advantage of such conditions if they get off to a hot start, take a lead. I feel like it's going to be too much for Wawrinka to come back physically if he's down a set or two. Nadal and Dominic Thiem, things are very interesting. It'll be kind of like what you saw with Djokovic and Raonic last night. the conditions got slower and slower, but started off relatively fast. Well, tonight at 7 p.m., when you get Dominic Thiem and Rafa, you're going to have the conditions that Rafa likes the most. But because Dominic Thiem, I think he could compete in the faster conditions as well. So it's not like a guarantee that Rafa will take advantage over Thiem and win the first set. But definitely, I'll give Rafa an edge. But an hour, 2 hours into this match, the conditions are going to, just like with Djokovic Raonic last night, listen carefully, watch entire matches, listen to the commentators. They'll tell you all about it. The Darren Cahill types who are courtside often, very good at letting you know about how the ball's moving through the air and what the conditions are doing. You will see it plummet with Rafa, and that will probably favor Dominic Thiem over Rafa. That's going to take away an edge from Rafa's forehand. With Kyrgios, I thought it would be a big factor, but it ended up just to really help Rafa get more serves back in play. In the long run, maybe you could say it hurt Kyrgios more, especially because Kyrgios felt like his only way to win points was really with the drop shot. He had a hard time hitting winners. With Dominic Thiem, he's just such a physical beast that I feel like Rafa losing steam on his shot, Dominic Thiem might actually be able to kind of overpower Rafa in slower conditions. I think it's going to be a dogfight, and I think you're going to see the great champion Rafa figure out a way to come through it, and he's going to jump on him and get the early lead over Dominic Thiem, which will be key, because I do not like Rafa to come back if he's down a set or two to Dominic Thiem as the conditions are getting slower and slower, the temperature's plummeting, the humidity's going up. So that's how I see tonight playing out. It's really a big mystery because Stan, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, he still could prove to us that he's found his fitness. It's possible, but he hasn't done it yet. I can't even remember what happened to the U.S. Open, but I want to say, didn't Stan look not fit after whoever beat him after he took out Djokovic at the U.S. Open? I wish I could remember for you what that result was, but I want to say I have this memory of Stan looking like he couldn't handle more tough matches after that one with Djokovic. So I that's what I'm thinking will play out, but, we got to give Wawrinka, he's a champion. We got to give him the benefit of the doubt and know that he could prove us wrong here. Let's see if he does. I'll be very interested to see that. I like Rafa to come through in a really big battle. Federer and Sandgren. If you did not see the match, it is one of the most amazing things you will ever see in the sport, in any sport, really. And I tweeted out that that fourth set comeback, the way Roger could barely move out there and found a way to win, that was the best tribute I have seen to Kobe Bryant yet, who was very famous for playing through injuries and finding ways to win when things weren't working for him. And well, Roger Federer did exactly that last night. Tennis Sandgren came out on fire. Let me sum up the match for you really quick. You were 5 sets. The first set, you had Roger Federer looking pretty good, hitting a couple aces in his first game, but mainly, and it wasn't like Federer looked great, but it looked like Federer was starting to kind of enjoy the faster conditions and get his game going. And then Sandgren, on the other hand, almost looked like he was really nervous, and you'd see him go down love 40 multiple times and then find a way to come back and hold. And after that happened a couple times, it really looked like in the second set, Federer got extremely nervous, and that's very understandable because if you're Federer, if you go into the semifinal and you play Djokovic, you don't get so nervous because you just know, like, okay, well, I have to play amazing. I have to go for my shots. If I play tight or timid, I'm definitely going to lose and fast against Djokovic. So Federer will probably go out not looking very nervous against Djokovic. You'll probably see him pretty focused and come out pretty hot is what I would anticipate. Whereas in this match, you see Federer win the first set, but after unable to break at love 40 multiple times against Sandgren, you see Federer start to think about, like, oh my God, I've got a semifinal on the line. I'm playing Tennis Sandgren in the quarters. If I lose, everyone's going to, kind of, I don't want to say make fun of me, but it's a humiliating kind of loss to take for Roger. And you start to see him get really nervous and really uncomfortable. And I just guarantee you he had that feeling of like, ugh, I'm expected to win this match. And what if I blow this match? The Sandgren guy is actually playing really good. And then you saw Sandgren doing a lot of stuff. I was really impressed by how well Sandgren was striking the ball. He was hitting his two-hand backhand as well as anyone on tour. I hate to say he was hitting it like Djokovic because someone's going to get angry and disagree with me on that. But Sandgren was hitting the ball very aggressively and taking it early with the two-hand backhand, doing pretty well with the forehand, which ultimately proved to be the weaker side and fell apart a little later in the match. Sandgren was serving, unbelievable serving. You can't deny it. Sandgren was playing great for about 2.5 sets. He was the better player and deserved to win the match. Unfortunately, 2.5 sets, you need 3 of the sets. So in the second set, Roger at first just looks really nervous, and then it starts to become obvious that he is injured. And by the end of the second set, the commentators are already talking about it. I had been just saying, I don't think he's injured. I think he's just really nervous and tight. And interestingly enough, in the press conference, Roger said he was playing so nervous that he felt like maybe the strain to his groin could have been related to playing so nervous, playing so tight that he managed to somehow injure himself, which is a weird one, but it makes sense to me because I was watching him and just it looks like nervous Federer to me. Looks like he's choky out there. And Roger proved himself in the fourth set. He lost the third set as well, and it looked even worse. He was barely moving. His serve speed started plummeting. It was pretty obvious. He was hitting first serves on average around like 106 miles per hour. And in the fourth set, he still had, and the biggest thing was he running to his forehand side, which he just looked really slow. And if the ball was out of reach, he didn't even try on a lot of them. And then in between points, I mean, going on the changeovers, Roger was walking really slow, taking it really easy. In the fourth set, things start to get pretty crazy because Roger is finding ways to hold. He's coming to net a lot. He's playing a little bit like Nick Kyrgios. You know, he's just like hitting these drop shots and drop shot, lob over your head kind of stuff. And when he has a chance, he's trying to finish a point right away. There's a couple points where Roger just started slicing backhands really low over and over and over again. And he wasn't playing his normal game, and it was obvious, but he kept finding ways to hold serve no matter what. And then, of course, he saves 7 match points, 3 in a row in the tiebreaker. And then by the end of the tiebreaker, he looks like, and he said it in press, especially in Swiss press, he was even more open and candid. He took a ton of painkillers, and they really started to kick in, obviously, because, and this is a good sign, if you're worried about Federer's recovery for Djokovic, the fact that Roger was moving well again in the fifth set and was hitting the forehand hard and getting to the ball quickly, and his serve speeds went back up in the fifth set. The fact that all of that happened, well, that's a really good sign. Plus, Roger said, he feels better than he did after the Millman match, which is, and plus there's this. Take a look. Roger and the whole team literally got ice cream after the match. When most guys are taking an ice bath, Roger's treating his loved ones, his team, to ice cream. How about that? I've been comparing this run to 2017, and it's kind of like that in a lot of ways, but now we don't have the easy quarterfinal before the difficult semifinal, and that's going to be tough. This is asking a lot. Luckily, the Millman match wasn't the last match before this one with Sandgren. You had a Fucsovics match, which was about half as long, half as many points as the Millman match, even though it was 4 sets. It was a relatively quick first set, and then 3 pretty quick sets after that for Roger, 3 in a row to win it. So luckily, he hasn't had 2 5-setters back-to-back. He had the 4 in between. That was definitely an easier match. And I'll say one more thing about this match. Roger was barely moving for a lot of it. So you could argue that maybe it didn't take a whole lot out of him. Again, when he started feeling better and the painkillers kicked in, he didn't feel his groin anymore in the 5th set. He loosened up. He looked great. Didn't look tired. Was playing pretty well. I mean, think about that. If you saw, there was a point where Roger breaks the serve of Tennis Sandgren in the 5th set, and Roger runs around a backhand and does that, flying through the air, flying forehand, flying sideways up the line for just a clean winner. I mean, vintage Roger Federer. If the guy is injured, and I was really worried it was his back. If it was his back, I don't know if he can come back from that. We know how bad the back can be. The fact that it's the groin, that makes me feel like, well, this isn't a reoccurring problem that he's really scared of. Roger doesn't want the back to come back. He's dealt with it, and it always hurts him longer than a couple days of recovery before a big match. With the groin, this is probably just a little thing that popped up out of nowhere, and it can go away just as quickly as it appeared. That is the very thing that Federer said 8 years ago. 1 second, I'll get to that. Let me just finish my prior thought. My prior thought was, if Roger is flying through the air, hitting forehands and moving like he did in the 5th set, I think it's safe to say that he has something left in the tank, and it's not a serious injury. So we shall see. For the Federer fans, it'll be fingers crossed. Credit to Djokovic. He looks really good. He is definitely the favorite. If I had to bet my life on it, I would probably go Djokovic wins in 4 sets. But you got to watch. It's must-see TV, and you got to give Roger a chance, as good a chance as anyone. Because if Roger does not beat Djokovic on Thursday in the first semifinal, I don't think anyone does. I think Djokovic wins the tournament for sure. Guaranteed. Real quick, let me talk about 2012 Wimbledon, because one thing that popped in my head, this is pretty similar. 2012 Wimbledon, Roger Federer has a 5-set super scare Houdini miracle comeback win against Julien Benneteau, the giant toe of France. And I think that was the third round. Just like this run, third round with Millman. Well, Roger had that with Benneteau. And then in the fourth round, Roger wins in 4, just like here. Then Roger wins an easy straight setter in the quarterfinal, and then he beats defending champion Novak Djokovic in 4 sets in the semifinals. Then, of course, he beats Andy Murray in the final to win 2012 Wimbledon. Well, now we've got Roger going to the semifinals to beat defending champion Novak Djokovic. Well, to play. We'll see if he can beat him. But the thing that's most similar to me of all, and again, Roger had an easy match before the semifinal with Djokovic. That's a key here. That's what's going to have everyone worried. But the thing is, Roger Federer, in his 4th round over Xavier Malisse, Roger's back went out. But it wasn't as serious of an injury back then, all that time ago, 8 years ago. But it was kind of like this. You saw Roger win a match where he could barely move, and he had to come up with a lot of tricky shots. Think Nick Kyrgios, think some of the stuff you saw with Sandgren last night. It was the same deal. And it's the only other time I've seen something like this where one guy can't move. You saw where Nadal was really struggling that final. He lost the Australian Open to Stan Wawrinka. He was able to get a set, but not able to come back and win the match. Xavier Malisse brought a really high level that day, and Federer barely able to move, able to win, and able to recover. I know that's 8 years ago, but I just want everyone out there to know, if you're a big Federer fan, there's precedent for this. It's been 8 years, but Roger has done this before, and he did come back to beat Djokovic in the semis and then beat one of the big 4, and Andy Murray, in the final. So there's precedent. It could happen again. A quick thing on Djokovic. I'm very impressed with Djokovic, but I've also seen enough to know that Djokovic isn't invincible, and we all have to wonder, when will fatigue kick in for all the tennis Djokovic has played at the ATP Cup? It probably won't. Djokovic will probably win the tournament, but I give Federer a chance because, I watched Raonic, and Raonic was able to give Djokovic some trouble, and if you just feel like if Raonic could have played better defense and been a little smarter with his shot selection at times, he could have done more to challenge the Djokovic serve. He could have maybe got a set or 2 last night. I don't know if he would win, but he could have challenged. Diego Schwartzman, we saw him had some looks on the Djokovic serve. I believe he broke Djokovic only once, but he had multiple looks. And you'd say maybe if Diego Schwartzman could have served a little bigger and held more and put more pressure on Djokovic, maybe he would have had even more looks with his awesome defense and his return game. It's like you could say, if you could take Raonic's a serve game and aggression with the forehand and merge that with the defense and the return game of Diego Schwartzman, if you could hybrid those guys, you would say they would have that person might have beat Djokovic. Well, Federer is kind of that. If you think about it, if Federer has a great serving day and the conditions will be faster than what Raonic had, you could easily make a case that Federer can do more damage with his serve than Raonic did in the slow conditions, because Federer is going to have fast conditions against Djokovic. And you could also say that Federer is going to be able to play a lot better defense than Raonic and is going to be a little smarter in the rallies. Plus, he's much more of a threat at recognizing when to come to the net and finish. Roger, obviously, serving way better than Diego Schwartzman. Roger has the right mix to treble Djokovic. And like I said before, I think he's the only person who can stop Djokovic here. So don't be surprised if that happens. And also, don't be surprised if Djokovic wins, because the guy looks great and the guy's clearly inspired. Hit the music. That's it today. Comment below what you think. I'll say it one more time. I'm amazed by how many people seem to not care about conditions, or they think it's somebody said something like all the matches I've ever played in humidity, it doesn't compare because I'm not a physical machine like those guys. The problem is, if I have a hard time hitting through someone who's my equivalent physically in humidity, these guys aren't playing me. These guys are playing other machines, other top-notch athletes. Trust me, it still affects them because it's that much harder to hit it past those guys who move so much better than me and the people that I play. The conditions are a big deal, and like I said earlier, watch the matches all the way through. Listen carefully to the commentators, guys who played on tour, experts of the game. They'll talk about the conditions. It's a big deal. Federer will get the perfect conditions. He can't ask for anything more in his match with Djokovic. The only question now is, can he recover and can he bring his very best, because he will need it. Djokovic looks awesome. Definitely. Nadal, if he has enough left in the tank, he has ideal conditions on Friday as well. We could get Fadal here. We could get Novak and Rafa. This is one of the most exciting Final Four that I can think of in recent years. I always get excited at this stage of the major, but this this one is a particularly good one. Comment below what you think about it, and we will see you tomorrow. See ya!